Yo fam, happy Monday guys. Big week for all markets across the world. Again, we're at high time frame. We are ready for a big move. We're sitting at supports, we're sitting at resistances everywhere. But this week's a big one, right? A lot of big things happening. So firstly, we are at the date when it comes to the Clarity Act, right? This is something we've been waiting for crypto as a pivotal moment of possibly bringing massive bullishness to the markets, right? Let's get out of this gray area. Let's bring a little bit more regulation in and let's get institutions involved in the markets. Right, this is a big part when it comes to that. Today is the day that's been set. It can go to the 7th. However, any moment from now, we're going to get a result, and this is going to affect the markets. Then what we have is oil, right? Oil is a very big leading chart right now. I want to show you guys in today's stream. As oil getting bullish is obviously bearish for most markets, but it is sitting at resistance. So I want to speak around that. Then we have FOMC, right? We need to see less aggression right now. Right now, it's starting to get to the aggressive approach. Therefore, all markets kind of worried. Everyone's kind of worried right now. If we see a slight less aggressive approach, right, this ultimately for me is a bull market catalyst, right? So yes, we have the Clarity Act, but ultimately FOMC starting to slow down, right, and getting less aggressive is what we want to see, right? So that's happening this week. Then what we also have is we have injection of 5.2 billion. Feds are injecting, and then we have the unemployment data. So big news week ahead. I want to go through all high time frame charts with you guys. I want to speak around a lot of different markets, as I do think that there are good opportunities everywhere, right? We could see a gold explosion, right, over the next couple of weeks. We could see a silver explosion, all depending on the news coming out this week. But I want to prepare you guys on all the major charts. I'm going to speak about Bitcoin. I'm going to speak about altcoins as well. So do me a favor, smash up the like, subscribe up. Let's go.
I try and help everyone in my space, and this is what I get. I try and fight the devils, but inside I'm just like 𝗧𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏. Welcome to Sheldon's show.
Bam, how are we doing? I see this guy turns his camera off now. He knows I'm going to bring him up. He's a smart man, smart man. Hope you guys are all doing fantastic. Had a great weekend. Okay, let's jump into it, guys. So again, big week ahead over here when it comes to news. Now, again, we want to get real money into the market, so Clarity Act is quite important. Okay, now there is obviously a approval, there's a rejection, right, of this. We'll see this soon, and I'll go through the basic plays. But end of the day, my goal here is not to really break down exactly the news here, right? But knowing that it is a very volatile week ahead. My key here is to stick to the charts and show you the probabilities of where we are sitting at right now. Okay, so again, this for me is a short-term strength within the crypto market if it gets approved. Okay, even if it gets rejected, right, I see a drop into a push up, but I'll speak about it in a sec. But nonetheless, let's speak about it being approved, right? I see it as being a quick ejection. You know, we spoke around at any moment there's going to be a spark of a double-digit green day, right? This could be very much that catalyst. Then what we have is this one over here. This one is the one for me saying, okay, we're going to start finding bottoms to a bull market incoming. Right, this is one that is super important, right? Getting a little bit less aggressive, right? And that for me is a dovish type of approach. Again, we'll see. I'm going to be streaming this with you guys, but we need less aggression, right? We need interest rates to start cooling down a little bit, right? And at least showing progress that things are going to get better. Okay, so this one for me is a short-term explosion. Again, I spoke around a pump to 72,000. This moving in the right direction, right, can start really getting us to a point of saying, hey, we're nearly at bottoms, or if not bottoms of the cycle when it comes to crypto, right? Then we obviously got oil, and we have a bunch of the rest over here. So I want to go through a couple of plays over here. The first thing I want to bring up, okay, is I do want to bring up the stock market, right, and the Dixie, and there's a whole bunch of things to speak around. So the first thing is the dollar, right? Now, again, dollar has started to strengthen. Therefore, all markets have been kind of choppy as well as starting to turn slightly bearish. Right, so stock market started to put in a little bit of bearishness last week, okay, and that's because dollar is starting to strengthen as well as oil is starting to strengthen, okay. But I do want to show you guys this over here. So we are sitting at a big trend resistance, okay. I've been trading a lot recently, and specifically shorter time frames, and when I see kind of patterns like this, right, it does tell me that it's not ready to break out just yet. Not only that, if we put in a lower high, there's a new lower low to come into play. Okay, the next thing I also pay attention to is very much the pattern that we are forming, right? We are definitely starting to form a uprising wedge. If I clean this all up over here, uprising wedge, okay, which means one of two things. First thing is it's actually bearish, right? We are right at resistance now, forming an uprising wedge. Anywhere in this area over here is bearish, okay, and we can see a rejection to the downside. Not only a rejection to the downside, we could actually be expecting us to lose this bottom trend over the next couple of weeks. Okay, that's the one major play. Okay, it's bearish. Okay, and the first approach is down here, and the second one is we actually end up having a drop for the rest of the year. Dollar really starts to weaken. This is very positive for markets, right? Then the second approach is the bearish approach. Okay, however, if we're going to get bearish, and that's why I think this week is so important, because it's going to bring volatility to the market. It's going to bring volume into the market, okay, and it's going to start giving us a bit of a feel. And specifically, you know, if you think of everyone right now, they're thinking about what to do for the rest of the year, right? I think this is a big pivot point, okay? Is the rest of the year going to be bearish? Is the rest of the year going to be bullish, right? We're at that midpoint now, okay? This needs to speed up incredibly fast. Okay, and it needs to get into this zone over here. This, for me, sets a very bearish next couple of 3 to 6 months for the markets, right? So yes, there is a bearish approach for markets, okay, but it has to really come from this week. We need to see a big drop come into the markets this week. We have to lose big structures to come into this week. Otherwise, it's very likely we're actually going to start turning bullish. Okay, so that's a pivotal chart to pay attention to. Then the next one is oil, guys. Oil is a big one. Right. So again, if we look at oil had a good 2-3 weeks. So we see oil from the bottom over here did have a 40% rise to the upside. Right. Oil is becoming like a damn altcoin. It's becoming incredibly volatile right now. Okay. But if you look at where we are right now, firstly, we had this big trend we were tracking when it had a very strong Q1, Q2 of the year. Okay. And then we did have that loss of that. And we saw markets start to rally up. We saw S&P break new highs. Right. Then we had this rally to the upside. Now, again, if we look at where we are now, I always speak about around mid-range. And if we look at that, we still actually have the bears in control here, right? So this is still bearish if I look at a simple chart view over here. Not only that, if I kind of look at where trends are right now, right, we actually have a bit of time here, right? Until we actually see if this thing is really going to break to the upside. Okay, so what that means for me specifically right now, if I look at this as a chart, as a token, as a commodity, anything like that, right? Any type of token, I'm kind of still bearish on this, okay? And I know there's time on when I can turn bullish. So I don't see a major breakout in gold, in oil, right? Specifically right now. What will change the mind, obviously, is a complete reversal into this area within the next week or two. Okay, otherwise, I'm actually looking at a possible new low, if not the previous lows. So something like this could actually trickle its way back down to these areas over here. Okay, so that's a good sign as well. Do you see that time-wise? I don't see this. Again, it's not a great sign that we are. It does mean a little bit later in the year we could turn bullish, but as it stands right now, I don't see the breakout happening right now. Okay, I actually see downside, and then it's quite important to see if we hold these or we do make new lows, because it is clearly still putting in a lower high when it comes to the weekly and the monthly. Okay, so this is a good sign over here to say, hey, there is a possibility of markets turning very bullish this week. Then what we have is the S&P. Well, the futures, let's jump into the futures here, right, is actually looking to break a descending flag wedge, right, channel. Okay, so again, firstly, the good sign about this is bullish. When something is pumped up and is doing this, it's bullish. All right, that's the first good sign. It is not doing that uprising. Okay, so that's a good sign. Secondly, we are actually starting to break within right now. Okay, so that is telling us that there's a mid-range resistance sitting here. And if things go well this week, okay, we could actually have a squeeze up to the tops. Don't be surprised if you actually see futures close to possible new highs. Now, again, at the same point, we do still have resistance ahead, okay, which means that if we don't get through this and bad news comes out, right, and things turn incredibly bearish, it is very likely, guys, this is going to drop a big amount, right? Anywhere when it comes to the areas of around 4 or 5% to the downside, right, if not even the mid-range. What I mean by the mid-range is here. All right, so we could, it's a very big week, right, when it comes, that's up to 7-8% drop. So this is why this week is super important when it comes to us getting a directional feel of where the market's going. Right now, it's slightly leading towards the bullish side, right? Market might be pre-moving something, okay? But ultimately, if we don't get through these areas, big drop to the downside when it comes. Then I want to speak around these over here, right? Because I do think we're getting to a point of a gold bounce. Okay, so I've personally gone long in the gold market right now. Gold, again, has been making this descending type of wedge. Okay, we're moving to the down, as well as this channel, right? If you look at the channel that we've been moving to the downside, we've been making a descending channel. Okay, now the first signs that it started to pop through, right, is it did break through this trend, okay, 2-3 days back. We had a breakthrough, we pushed around 4160, and now we came down and retested it, okay? Then if I zoom out and I look at the next major trends, drink something. That's where we're at. Okay, so short, mid time frame, we are showing strength, but now you can see we are literally in a decision point. We are sitting between these two key main trends. Guys, us breaking out of this trend, okay, sends gold anyway up to the areas of 4,400, 4,500, and very likely pretty quickly. Why do I say quickly? When we have these type of accumulations, you do get an absorbing candle at some point, right? Which can happen in a weekly candle. It can happen in 2-3 days, a very fast move. So again, that kind of highlights, let's say, a positive FOMC, right? A bearish FOMC, right? And this is where things start to get really interesting. If we start rejecting here and gold starts losing this area of 4,000, right? Very likely we're going to make our way to 3,400. So for me, this is a very pivotal week, right? If we lose this now, then I'm looking at anywhere up to a 15% drop when it comes to gold. Not only gold, same thing with silver too, right? Silver's at this point where it's literally on the bull market trend, and a good news week, we can see a pump up to 70 to 75 over the next week or two. Okay, so again, if I'm looking at plays here, I'm longing here, stop loss here, result over here, right? That's the risk to reward that I'm seeing on a trade on silver right now, right? If I'm looking to long gold, right, I'm looking at long in gold here. I'm looking at putting a stop loss around the areas of around 3,980, and I'm looking for a push up anywhere up to 4.4 to 4.5, right? A 1-to-4 risk to reward ratio. That's the long setups that are currently sitting as it stands. If I'm doing the stock markets or the futures, I'm a little bit late. I must keep that in mind. Therefore, I'm putting a tighter stop when it comes to things like this, and possibly new highs. Right, so that's when it comes to a lot of the rest of the market. A couple of things to pay attention to is things like Apple. Apple's actually put in a really good week last week, has dropped starting this week, and now has lifted up very quickly. Right, if you look at the rest of the markets, Amazon's turning pretty bearish. NVDA, right, is actually not too far from a possible weekly breakout. So this is also telling us, guys, if the markets don't get bullishness this week, right, we are facing a very big drop, right? If we don't see a good, let's say, NVIDIA move this week and we start losing this trend, NVIDIA is coming down easily up to 30-40%. Okay, if we obviously look at Coinbase as well, this is making a bullish pattern. Could we see a breakout? This very much falls on the Clarity Act that we're seeing over here. So lots around there. Now, let's jump into the crypto markets. As it stands right now, crypto is literally just chilling and ranging, right? Boring as hell, okay? But again, I want you to just zoom out and pay attention to the two plays. These are the two bullish zones of Bitcoin, right? The one is here at 58,000. The other one is sitting over here at 40,000, right? I don't want to get erased and wrecked, you know, short time frame by the choppiness, right? High time frame approach right now, probably one of the best plays. Now, first thing I want to speak around is the monthly candle, right? So this monthly candle is actually not too bearish. One thing that is important though is this high here, right, which is this area of 67,000. So for us to really think of a good bullish next month, we do want to get above 67,000 this month. Okay, that's exactly where we stopped. Okay, even if we do see a rejection from here, let's say things turn temporary bearish and we don't lose 58,000, very likely next month's going to be green. Okay, so it's just telling me again that there's a lot of support in this area over here. Okay, and as you can see, the real breakout only comes in the area of September. That's where we can really start seeing moves possibly back to 100,000. Okay, but as it stands right now, I'm not too bearish on the Bitcoin market. However, again, loss of 58,000, then big downside. So let's zoom in here and show you guys my plays of what I'm seeing right now. Okay, again, something around the Clarity Act can get us to 72,000. Right, we can see this clear gap where we are sitting right now. Okay, something around a good FOMC or good roadmap going ahead, right, can actually get us outside of that trend for any higher target. So I don't see the Clarity Act just yet, unless the Clarity Act, let's say that comes through and we do see a move up to 78, 80,000. That could be really good. Okay, but if not, very likely a push to this over here. Okay, and then a possible rejection. Something like that is very likely to come into play when it comes to the crypto markets. A rejection or clarity act, guys. I see a drop down here and I see another push up here. I see something coming to this play over here. Again, the only thing for me that turns bearish is we start accumulating below 58,000. Right? Until then, this comes into play over here. Okay, so again, a bearishness on FOMC, a bearishness on clarity act brings us down to this opportunity of longing. So that currently is where I would take fresh longs in the market as the play for now. If I wanted to ladder in slightly here on playing on the news, maybe it works out in your favor, cool, but it'll be a small laddering in type of method. But that's currently my plays when it comes to this over here, okay? If it's short time frame, okay, let's go into short time frame, the next 24, 48 hours type of view. Right, we zoom in here, I would like to long this area over here at 64,000. As I look at the liquidations, we don't have any huge batches right now. However, we do have people starting to place bets, right? There's bets here, there's bets here. So both teams are placing bets when it comes to this. So people are very interested in having their opinions right now. For me, I would like to long the market down here on short time frame with a nice tight stop loss if I'm looking to long for kind of day trading or for the week type of views. That's kind of the plays that I'm looking at over here. We also have this trend line that we have broken, and that lines up with that retest play over there. When it comes to altcoins, guys, just want to show you guys altcoins here. So the good sign with altcoins, right, is we could be seeing a double bottom, right? So again, just showing us that we must hold this support. Holding the support, very likely we're catching the bottom of the cycle for altcoins, right? Specifically for the next couple of months. But at any point, a rally up to this area over here of up to $300 billion coming into the altcoin markets, okay? And the great sign about this too, okay, is if you just go and track the trend line. We had a little false break the other day, which was this little wick that came through. A closing candle outside of this is very bullish. Okay, so right now as it stands, this is where I'm looking for longs on altcoins, okay? Or I'm looking for the close and the break outside of this trend. Guys, there's a big short squeeze loading on alts, right? Specifically with Clarity Act, you're looking at DeFi, you're looking at things like ETH and Solana, right? Probably XRP, right? You're looking at a lot of these tokens kind of being the ones that show strength when it comes to that. USDT dominance is in this flag right now. We have lost this big trend, okay? So this could also indicate bullishness. So as it stands right now, me personally, 60% bullish on things turning out quite bullish within this week. And I'm speaking high time frame bullish, which is really good. We've got the dominance starting to cool down and actually starting to lose short-term trends. So that's a good sign when it comes to altcoins. Now let's speak around Ethereum. Ethereum is starting to wake up and starting to wake up behind people noticing. Right, so it's definitely one of the stronger alts right now, and it has broken this weekly trend, okay? And at any point it breaks through this, we are going to have a rally up to 2,400. So something is saying ETH, right? Placing a bet on ETH. So I've been buying a couple of spot tokens when it comes to ETH. We also have Solana right at resistance. So keep an eye out. There will be a sign of Solana breaking out of 78. And again, I'm looking at up to a 20, 30% move up in alts once we start to break these major highs to the upside. Okay, guys, I'll be back tomorrow with more of that. Then I want to show you guys a lot of altcoins. I'll speak around a lot of altcoins tomorrow. I see pump funds waking up. Guys, you can place trades on Banter bubbles. Okay, so if you're going to trade now, Button, you can actually take trades on this area. And Blowfin is one of them that's working. So if any of you guys have a Blowfin account or don't have a Blowfin account, sign up a Blowfin, as you can trade straight off of bubbles now. You can connect your exchange, okay, and you can take the trade straight off of bubbles. Right, so if you see things starting to wake up and you want to connect your exchanges, you can click here, take trade, right, and you can get into the market very quickly, and it will take the trade on your actual platform. So shout out to Blowfin for allowing that and the possibilities. Link below in the description. Have a fantastic day. See you guys tomorrow. Lots of love. Bye-bye.